Q6437. What minimum pilot certificate will permit a pilot to enter Class B airspace? A. Private pilot certificate. B. Commercial pilot certificate. C. Student pilot certificate with an appropriate endorsement. The correct answer is C. To enter Class B airspace, a pilot must have at least a student pilot certificate with an appropriate endorsement. Class B airspace is highly controlled and typically surrounds busy airports with significant air traffic. It requires pilots to have a certain level of training and knowledge to safely operate within this airspace. A student pilot certificate is the minimum certificate issued by the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, and allows individuals to undergo flight training. However, simply having a student pilot certificate is not sufficient to enter Class B airspace. The pilot must also have an endorsement from an authorized flight instructor stating that they have received the necessary training and are authorized to operate within Class B airspace. The endorsement verifies that the pilot has received specific instruction on operating in Class B airspace, including communication procedures, ATC, air traffic control, clearances, traffic patterns, and other relevant information. It ensures that the pilot understands the requirements and can safely navigate and communicate within the controlled airspace. While a private pilot certificate or commercial pilot certificate allows pilots to operate in Class B airspace, these certificates require additional training, experience, and endorsements beyond what is required for a student pilot certificate. Therefore, the correct answer is that a pilot with a student pilot certificate and the appropriate endorsement is the minimum requirement to enter Class B airspace. 6326-2. Which of the following normally requires the pilot in command to hold a type rating? A. Any turbojet-powered aircraft. B. Any airplane which has a gross weight of 6,000 pounds or more. C. Any multi-engine airplane which is under interstate commerce. The correct answer is A. The pilot in command is normally required to hold a type rating for any turbojet-powered aircraft. A type rating is a specific certification issued by aviation authorities that indicates a pilot's qualifications and competency to operate a particular type or model of aircraft. Turbojet-powered aircraft typically have more complex systems and performance characteristics compared to other types of aircraft, requiring specialized knowledge and training. Due to the increased complexity and higher performance of turbojet aircraft, aviation regulations mandate that pilots receive specific training and obtain a type rating before operating such aircraft as the pilot in command. Type ratings are specific to each aircraft type or model and are issued after the pilot completes the necessary training, passes the required examinations, and demonstrates proficiency in operating the aircraft. Holding a type rating ensures that the pilot has the knowledge and skills to safely operate the specific aircraft type. Therefore, among the given, option A is correct, as any turbojet-powered aircraft normally requires the pilot in command to hold a type rating. 6326-1. To act as pilot in command of an airplane that has more than 200 horsepower, a person holding a private or commercial pilot certificate is required to A. Successfully complete a practical test in such an airplane. B. Receive ground and flight training in an airplane that has more than 200 horsepower. C. Make 3 takeoffs and landings with an authorized instructor in an airplane of the same make and model. The correct answer is B. When a pilot wants to act as pilot in command of an airplane that has more than 200 horsepower, they are required to receive specific training in that type of aircraft. This training is necessary to ensure that the pilot has the knowledge and skills to safely operate a high-powered airplane. The training typically includes both ground instruction and flight training. During the ground instruction, the pilot will learn about the systems, limitations, and performance characteristics of the specific airplane. They will also receive training on emergency procedures, weight and balance calculations, and other relevant topics. In addition to the ground instruction, the pilot will also undergo flight training in the airplane. This includes hands-on experience in operating the aircraft, practicing various maneuvers, and becoming familiar with its handling characteristics. The flight training is typically conducted with a qualified flight instructor who is experienced in that particular type of aircraft. Once the pilot has completed the required ground and flight training, they may be required to demonstrate their proficiency by successfully completing a practical test or check ride in that specific type of airplane. This test is administered by an FAA-designated examiner and assesses the pilot's knowledge, skills, and ability to safely operate the high-powered aircraft. By undergoing this training and successfully completing the requirements, pilots can ensure that they are adequately prepared to operate airplanes with more than 200 horsepower and can do so safely and competently. 6327. To act as pilot in command of an airplane with retractable landing gear, flaps, and controllable propeller, a person holding a private or commercial pilot certificate is required to A. Complete a practical test in such an airplane. B. Have made at least 3 takeoffs and landings in such an airplane in the last 90 days. C. Receive ground and flight training in such an airplane and obtain a logbook endorsement of proficiency. The correct answer is C. To act as the pilot in command of an airplane with retractable landing gear, flaps, and a controllable propeller, a person holding a private or commercial pilot certificate is required to receive specific ground and flight training in such an airplane. Additionally, they must obtain a logbook endorsement of proficiency from an authorized flight instructor. The ground training will cover the systems, limitations, and operating procedures specific to the airplane with retractable landing gear, flaps, and controllable propeller. This training ensures that the pilot understands the aircraft's unique features and can operate it safely. The flight training involves hands-on experience in operating the airplane. The pilot will practice takeoffs and landings, as well as other maneuvers and procedures specific to the aircraft type. The flight instructor will evaluate the pilot's proficiency and provide necessary guidance and corrections during the training. Once the required ground and flight training is completed, the pilot must receive a logbook endorsement from an authorized flight instructor. This endorsement serves as evidence that the pilot has received the necessary training and is proficient in operating an airplane with retractable landing gear, flaps, and controllable propeller. It's important for pilots to undergo this additional training and obtain the endorsement to ensure they have the knowledge and skills to safely operate aircraft with complex systems and features. 6328. No person may act as pilot in command of a pressurized airplane with a service ceiling or maximum operating altitude, whichever is lower, above 25,000 feet, unless that person has A. Completed a physiological training program conducted by the FAA or a military service. B. Received ground and flight training in high-altitude operations and a logbook endorsement certifying this training. C. Completed a pilot proficiency check for a pilot or instructor pilot certificate or rating conducted by the FAA after April 15, 1991. The correct answer is B. To act as the pilot in command of a pressurized airplane with a service ceiling or maximum operating altitude above 25,000 feet, a person must have received specific ground and flight training in high-altitude operations and obtained a logbook endorsement certifying this training. The ground training will cover topics such as the physiological effects of high altitude, cabin pressurization systems, oxygen systems, high-altitude weather considerations, and emergency procedures specific to high-altitude operations. This training ensures that the pilot understands the unique challenges and safety considerations associated with flying at high altitudes. The flight training involves practical experience in operating the aircraft at high altitudes. The pilot will learn and practice procedures for maintaining cabin pressure, managing oxygen systems, dealing with emergencies at high altitude, and other relevant skills. The flight instructor will evaluate the pilot's performance and provide necessary guidance and corrections during the training. Upon completion of the required ground and flight training, the pilot must receive a logbook endorsement from an authorized flight instructor. This endorsement certifies that the pilot has received the necessary training in high-altitude operations and is qualified to act as the pilot in command of a pressurized airplane operating above 25,000 feet. This requirement ensures that pilots have the knowledge and skills to safely operate pressurized airplanes at high altitudes, taking into account the unique physiological and operational considerations associated with flying in such conditions.